everybody, I'm Justin Archer, aka The Posture Guy, your #1 source on pain, posture, and performance. And today we're going to be continuing the Correcting Common Posture Deviation series with a little talk about thoracic, or otherwise known as torso rotation. Alright? So first of all, what is thoracic/torso rotation? How do you know if you have it? What does it look like? Well, first of all, you want to stand in front of a mirror, or have a friend, or you can do it yourself, take a picture. And from the front, what it would look like is essentially one side of your torso is rotated closer to you, whether you're looking in the mirror or looking at a picture of yourself. So this would be thoracically rotated right side forward. This would be thoracically rotated left side forward. Okay? And I'll give you an example of what it looks like from the back. Now, obviously, if you're looking at the back, you're going to need to have pictures of yourself. You can't do this in the mirror, else you'll turn to look at the mirror and you'll reverse that rotation. So, from the back, this would be right side thoracically rotated forward, and this would be left side rotated forward. Okay? So that's probably the easiest way, but if you're still unsure, you kind of want to check your work, so to speak, you want to use your side views. So let's go with the example that I'm thoracically rotated right side forward. Okay? And we're looking at my right side, so I'm thoracically rotated here. Notice how you can actually see my back. Okay? Now, let's keep that thoracically rotated right side forward and look at it from the left. Okay? Notice how you really can't see my back. You can see my arm and shoulder, and if depending on the severity of the rotation, you could even see my pectoral muscles here on my right side. Alright? So that's probably the easiest way to tell if you're thoracically rotated, but maybe you're not as severely rotated as the examples I just demonstrated. Maybe you're just a little bit rotated. So there's a few tests you can do to determine that. You can either stand up against a wall with your heels, butt, head against the wall, and just kind of feel for, is one part of your back touching the wall more than the other? Or if that's uncomfortable or you can't stand currently for whatever reason, you can also just lay on the floor with your legs up at a 90-degree angle on like a bench, chair, or ottoman. Essentially, you're in the static back position. And you can feel that same weight against the floor. So ask yourself, does it feel like one side of your torso, your kind of mid, upper back, and shoulder blade area, is one side heavier into the floor or against the wall? And is one side lighter and kind of floating more off the floor or off the wall? That lighter, kind of floatier side, that's going to be your side that's rotated forward. Okay? So once you determine if you have thoracic rotation, at this point a lot of people are asking, okay, well, what causes it? And because I want to know, once we fix it, how do I make sure that doesn't happen again? Well, when you're thinking about what causes, the thoracic rotation, you got to keep two things in mind. One is rotation, usually in the body, is a form of compensation for a dysfunction elsewhere in the body, or maybe some other rotation, so maybe a counter rotation to something else in the body. Okay? And number two is form follows function. So let's first talk about the rotation being a form of compensation. And I'll use some examples of people I've seen. A pitcher who's right-handed, constantly throwing. Well, you would assume that they're thoracically rotated right side forward. But I've seen, and sometimes that's true, but I've actually seen a number of pitchers where they're not. It's actually the opposite side. So what's happened is from throwing and throwing and throwing, like here, you look at them and their right shoulder is internally rotated, so they're rounded forward on their right shoulder, and don't confuse the two. This is shoulder rounding, this is thoracic. They're two different deviations. So rounded shoulder, and as a form of compensation, thoracically rotated left side forward. Okay, so that's one form of compensation. Let's take another soccer player who's constantly kicking with his dominant side, his right side, and who is pelvically rotated right side forward. Okay? Now, if the rest of his body were to keep rotating right side forward and right side forward, excuse me, he would eventually fall flat on his face on his right side. So as a way to find some equilibrium to kind of counter-rotate and balance, his left torso rotated forward. And, obviously this doesn't look pretty, doesn't feel great. You can try it for yourself. Try rotating one hip forward, the opposite torso the other way, and it literally feels like when you wring a washcloth out, that's what your spine starts to feel like. Definitely leads to a lot of back pain. So those are forms of your torso rotating, compensating for other parts of your body that are rotating internally or externally when they shouldn't be. Now, as far as form follows function, think about just your everyday motion patterns. You get up, you put something in the microwave or you're cooking something on the stove, and then you get it out and you take your utensils and you reach forward eating breakfast. You know, you go, take a shower, and you're reaching with your dominant side, washing yourself. Then you get in the car, you drive to work, one arm on the wheel, you get to your office, you're working the mouse with one side. And whatever your dominant side is, because most of us aren't ambidextrous, most people are right-handed, some of us, the really cool ones, we're left-handed, yeah. But most people are dominant one side. And so we constantly interact with objects and things in our world, in our everyday life, one side, and we reach forward and we reach forward. And after a while, our bodies become chronically rotated, what we call thoracic rotation. And there's a couple of muscles that contribute to that, internal, external, obliques, rotators, multifidi, but they all work together to kind of to make you rotate. But if you do it again and again and again without doing the other side or something else to break up that motion pattern, your body assumes, well, tomorrow, he or she is going to want me to do this, so I'm just going to kind of stay there. So I'm ready at a moment's notice to reach forward. And what happens if that chronically happens and you get stuck there, then it leads to all sorts of other problems, compensations, dysfunctions, then you can get impingements. We talked about with that counter rotation, you can definitely have low back pain. If you're thoracically rotated, it can totally offset your whole shoulder girdle. You get things like thoracic outlet syndrome, shoulder pain, upper back pain, mid-back pain. The list goes on and on. So, now, am I going to ask you to switch from being right-handed to left-handed or anything? No. But if you want a fun challenge, try tonight, or if you're watching this in the morning, when you go to brush your teeth, try brushing with the other hand. It's really weird. Or try next time you sit down to eat, switch utensils, fork and knife and hand. Again, really weird, but fun experiment to try out. But no, you don't have to completely change, what you do for a living, or if you're playing a sport, you don't have to switch from throwing right hand to left hand, because then eventually you'll have the same problem just on the other side. You just want to give your body some type of stimulus, some type of motion that is going to work your body bilaterally, okay? And to help you do so, I've included a routine down below. It's just 3 exercises. It really only takes like 5 minutes or less to do. And what it's going to do is work the muscles of your shoulders and hips, or really the muscles in between your shoulders and hips, to counter that rotation. And you're going to be always working both sides of the body so that it's basically going to counter the rotation and even everything out, so your hips, your spine, your shoulders are all pointed straight ahead, okay? So check those 3 exercises out, and then, let me know in the comment section below, or you can call or email me. I'm interested to know, what did you feel and what did you see different before you did the exercises and then immediately following the exercises? And being that it's a pretty short routine, feel free to do. There's only 3 exercises: standing elbow curls, hip crossover, and cats and dogs. You can do those 3, 2 or 3 times a day. You're not going to overdo it, all right? So check those out. Thank you for watching this video. I look forward to seeing you inside the next one. Until then, take care and keep moving.